If I'm going to be surrounded by this for 24 hours, I want to see it. It is only a one manor, but it does give you plenty of room. You, your Bergen, and any loose kit you might want to leave laying out. Yeah, pretty roomy. It's got a nice simple system for supporting yourself. Just one peg and one pole socket in each corner with a guide loop. And then up at the top you've got guide runners there where the poles cross over. A tie system just to bind them together, and then down each side you've got 1, 2 and 3 clips just to hold the outer to the poles. Very simple system, no messing there. It's got a triple zip system, one straight down the centre and one going each way, which you can also tie back with the ties there, very handy. And my particular favourite, a nice little kit hammock. I like that. Keep all your essentials to hand, you know, knife, torch, phone, whatever you think's most vital. One end is pretty much level with where the peg mounts are, and the other end has like an extra bit for kit, pillow, Bergen to lay down there, whatever you want really, extra bit of storage space. There's only one small drawback that I can see with using these as a tent, and it's only a little thing. The fact that they're a cot mounted mosquito net means that they haven't got a fully waterproof base. It's like a waxy material, which it does do the job up to a point, but not fully. So if you chuck a cheap sheet in the bag with it, you can fully waterproof the base. It's worth carrying the extra bit just for the view that you get. Look at that, 360 degrees of that. Best room in the house, why wouldn't you want to spend the night here in that? Made a couple of changes to my cook set. Instead of the square business card box, I'll put a nice round one in there so it all just fits in better. A lot longer the business card box, so it didn't really fit that well. And sewed up a nice bag for my Change EMFs burner. Little draw cord on it. All goes together a lot nicer. Badgers have been busy digging, and I mean busy. There's loads of new activity. So if I'm a good boy, Sandy, and I leave the music off tonight, I might see a bit of badger action. Hey. Loads of new digs. Here's your classic badger oval shaped hole. Absolutely riddled with them around here. All the holes are sort of tucked away under brambles and undergrowth, just how they like it. You'll like this one. Look at that. Wow. One of the best things about this wood is that it's in the middle of a load of farmers' fields, so you're guaranteed loads and loads of skyline, and that makes for some pretty awesome sunsets. I do like a good sunset. I came out here to do the sunset, and typically, just as I was stood here, 3 geese flew straight over the top there, down towards the lake. I didn't have a chance to get the camera running. Damn. I guess you just had to be there. I'll try harder next time. Home sweet home. Oh, I can't think of anywhere I'd rather be right now. See, if I was at home in my bed, I wouldn't be looking at this. I finally did the decent thing and got myself a British Army Arctic bag. I've used them before in the army, but it's my first night out in this one I've just bought, so I can't wait to see how it fares. Right, the fire's died down, so I'm going to try out my new sleeping bag. Time to get my head down. I'll see you in the morning. Morning guys. I'll tell you what, these are definitely all they're cracked up to be. What an awesome night's sleep. Oh, that was lovely. But now I think first order of the day is a nice cup of coffee. Hi guys, I'm here today to do an update on the perimeter alarm kit that I put together. I had loads of feedback off you guys and suggestions for modifications, so after a bit of tinkering I'm back in the woods for a retest. Bill suggested something really useful, to include some screw-in eyelets to give a nearly frictionless pull on the tripwire. I was already using these in my fishing kit, but it never occurred to me to use them on this, so cheers for that. I've added these on a small carabiner to keep them together. Both these blokes made a very good point, that I was using the wrong line due to the fact that monofilament stretches too much. I did do a test with the original mono line and guess what? It failed. It didn't snap, but it did stretch a lot to the point of knowing I had a tripwire around my ankles. Not much good if you're relying on it to catch someone out and wake you up. So to combat this, I've changed the tripwire to a much stronger braided line which has far better stretch resistance. Another good one from Charlie Oscar was that I tripped the system on the firing pin side of the alarm, using only a short length for the available tripwire. To get an accurate gauge of the line's tolerance to stretching and snapping, you need to trip the system at the furthest point along the line. Nice one mate, cheers for pointing it out. You also mentioned adding an on-off switch to silence the alarm while you put the pin back in. I've got the perfect rocker switch, I just have to find the time to install it. What a slacker. These fellas suggested raising the tripwire height to prevent the local wildlife triggering it. Badgers would probably be okay because they're quite low, but foxes could almost certainly set it off. I can afford to go a little higher, but I have to be careful not to make the line too obvious to its intended quarry. Thanks for the feedback fellas, all very good points. I'll be testing it all out today. I was never completely happy with the original mounting system, so while I was at it I designed something sturdier. Instead of a peg for the reel and a stake for the alarm, they're both now mounted with two larger eyelets and a spindle. The mounting eyelets are bigger than the little tripwire ones, so to make installation easier you can use the spindle to wind them in like a key. The reel is suspended between the eyelets with the spindle acting as an axle and a rudimentary ratchet. And the bungees from the original design hold the alarm in place on the bottom of the spindle. Once you've decided on your perimeter and where your alarm's going to go, install the mounting eyelets using the reel to get your spacing right. And I saved a bee from a spider's web with a stick. He sat on the end there cleaning the rest of the web off himself. Go on, fella. Although you got to feel sorry for the spider, haven't you? I suppose the bees had a result. Once the mounts are in, put the reel into position between the eyelets, then drop in the spindle, not fully engaged, just enough to let the reel turn. Thanks to Rick for a good tip. If you're going to put one of these kits together and you're knocking in stakes or pegs like I did in the first video, try it with 2 fingers and your palm facing up. It's the hammering equivalent of a sissy stick for an axe. As Rick says, if you miss, your palm will take a whack better than the small bones on the back of your hand. Nice one, Rick. Cheers. Next, you can screw in the eyelets for the tripwire. You won't need the spindle with these because the points are quite fine and they go in pretty easily. Just need to give them a bit of a push. There we go. It's a good idea to make sure the gaps are big enough to take the line that you're using before you come out, so you're not fiddling around modifying them in the field. You can see from this unaltered one that the line won't fit, so I opened up the kit one slightly with pliers, just enough for the line to click in. Also make sure the gaps are uppermost so that the line sits into it with no risk of dropping out. Having said that, once you tension the tripwire there shouldn't be any sag, but every little helps. If there's a way for you to secure the firing pin, do that, and then run the tripwire, clicking it into the eyelets as you go until you get back to the reel. Once you're back at the reel, temporarily lock it off so you can fit the alarm to the spindle. And lastly, tension your tripwire and release your firing pin. With this particular alarm, the firing pin can be fully engaged or pulled halfway out, essentially giving you hard pull and soft pull settings. So you have to gauge how taut to set the wire depending on which one you've selected. Today I'll be testing both. Perimeter wired. And system armed. Time for a retest, see if all them mods work. Stand to, gentlemen. The enemy's at the gates. This test is at the furthest point on the wire using the eyelets with the pin fully engaged for a hard pull. Certainly some improvements on how it goes together and the way it works, but there's still a lot of stretch on the line on the hard pull, so it would probably only be any good against someone moving pretty quick, which isn't going to be the ideal. So onto the soft pull on test 2. The second test is also at the furthest point on the wire, still using the eyelets, but this time with the pin half engaged for an easier trip on a soft pull. That's far better, much more sensitive. You barely notice the wire when you walk into it. Exactly what you need for an early warning system. So I think we have a winner, and it's a soft pull. So there you have it, a more realistic test up against better design and a few better components, all thanks to your suggestions and a little bit of redesign. At the very least, hopefully it'll keep the dogs out, Miss Stu. All in all, a tidy little heads up device. I'd just like to say a big thank you to everyone that commented and gave suggestions. Hope you enjoyed the upgrades. If you think of anything else, you know where I am. I'll be in the woods. I'll be easy to find. I'll be the one making all the racket, won't I?